Well, this is just an incredible opportunity to have two of the all-time greats, not just in basketball, two of the all-time great people. Suzy Merchant, the head coach at Michigan State, and this other guy I think you may have heard about. His name is Tom Izzo. He's the head coach at Michigan State also. Both undefeated coaches right now, both teams playing really well. It's an exciting time of the year as we get ready for exam week and Christmas, and this has been unlike a year that we've ever experienced. So let's just get the COVID question out of the way first, and then we can move on to some more fun and more important things. Suzy, how have you had to manage your team differently inside the COVID protocols? And I mean, like on the court, like in terms of strategy, not how you have to handle the medical protocols. I mean, strategy in the game.
Well, you know, you'll appreciate this, Miss Offense over there. We've kind of adjusted our offense, and I took less control of it, to be honest, and it's a more of a positionless besides our five-man inside, just because I didn't know game to game, practice to practice who we would have. And so, you know, of course we have a few quick hits that we have, but really just kind of spacing the floor and passing and cutting a little bit more motion-like, and anybody can play any position. And that's been one tactical thing. And then, you know, more importantly, I think keeping it fun. Honestly, we got to keep it fun for these kids. This has to be a place they come, and the grind is real, but it has to be fun for them. So that's one thing. We do dance parties to start our practices just to get a little joy, and I don't know, Grey's Anatomy, dance it out, you know. So we're just starting practice, just stupid little things just to keep them engaged and have, you know, appreciate the fact they can still play.
How about you, Coach? You putting yourself in the middle of that dance circle at practice every day, or what have you done to adjust?
You know, we have done some things, you know, here. We're just trying to get it for us. We're trying to get them out of those apartments. You know, I'm worried that we've kind of made a little study hall area here. I'm just worried that they're going to lay in those apartments, push their computer buttons and take classes in bed, you know. And so, but that's off the court. I think your question was on the court. And like Suzy, you know, what I've tried to do is have a lot of depth, which is driving me crazy right now, because we have more turnovers, because I'm trying to play 11 people. And as you guys know, that's impossible. But I know somebody's getting it because the coach got it. And I know how diligent I was, and I know how they're not going to be as diligent, and that's understandable. So I think January and February, I'm hoping that I've really secured my depth this time of year. I agree with her. You know, the old saying of the Bobby Knights and the Judd Heathcotes and you know, probably all the women coaches too, is, you know, winning's the only thing that's fun. Well, we have to change that. It's got to be more than just winning to be fun, because we're all worried about the mental health, and that's on the floor. And so we do play, you know, maybe a few more shooting games, and we try to end things on a positive note, and maybe shorten the practices a little bit. Attention span isn't quite as good. I'm not sure. You know, I try to look at it as those of us that are adults, and I'm older than you two, but all of us are adults, and it's hard for us during the COVID season. Just try to picture being 20 and having to go through. It's almost locked up. You're almost locked up. You know, you go to college to have some fun. You don't really get to do much, and we've got to understand that.
One of the unique things about having both of you on here together is that you have an incredible relationship. And, you know, there are other programs where you could spend the whole season, and because of the facilities, because of the basketball practice facility for the men and for the women, you could probably spend the whole year and never see each other in the basketball season. What is it about your relationship, Coach, with Suzy that makes it so special and unique at Michigan State?
Well, number one, I was a little bit part of the hiring process. You know, Mark Hollis, you know, talked to me about her real early on. Number two, she's a Division II girl, you know, meaning she started at Saginaw Valley. She was a player at Central. I started at Northern Michigan. You know, we were in the same conference, different times. But I love people that come from the Division II mentality. You know, she taped ankles. You know, you were the head coach. You were taping ankles. You were the strength coach. You were the academic person. I just love people that have gone through the process. So many people skip the process. And then, you know, the first day she came here, she took my parking spot. So I knew she didn't give a damn who I was. And so she just parked her car in my spot. And so I said, you know what? I got to like a girl that's that. But I think most important, serious to me, is she's been great. You know, she's not over here wondering everything we do. And I think for the most part, we've had as good a relationship as, you know, you say it, sometimes it's because facilities are apart, but sometimes it's like why basketball people don't get along with football. I got to give Mark Hollis a lot of credit. Over our era here, we have great camaraderie with our other programs, and there's not a lot of jealousy. I mean, once in a while you get ticked off about something, but I think her and I have worked really well together. We do share a gym, sorta. We just work out the times. It's not that big a deal, either one of us. And I think we appreciate that we both got problems, man. And sometimes, there's times I sat in her office or she sat in mine for hours. And that doesn't normally happen either. So it's been really good. And I joke with her a lot, but it's been really good.
What about you, Suzy? You have like Google basketball right down the hallway. I mean, if you have any basketball issue, you could just walk right down the hall. You don't have to actually call up Google. What's it like for you to have Coach right down the hall?
Well, first I put a lot of rose petals in my pocket because wherever he goes, I want to drop them in front of him because, you know, he is the king.
She's so bad.
He is the king. And it is a true story. I did take his parking spot, but nobody told me there was an A and a B, and clearly I'm B. So that was not on me, you know this. He goes,
only the 37 years I've been here.
He goes, Merchant, you might want to win a game. This was like when I first got the job. Merchant, you might want to win a game before you start taking my parking spot. I was like horrified. I think I was frozen for like 4 days. I was like, oh my God. But no, he you know what, Iz always talks about other people, but he's the guy that kind of runs this place. And, you know, he mentioned being a Division II person, but that's in his roots. You know, he came from the UP, which most people don't even know is part of our state. And you know, Twilight Zone up there most of the time. But, you know, I just think he's as down to earth as they get. And, you know, I hear stories on my side, and you do too, Deb, where, you know, the men's coach doesn't even know who the women's coach is, let alone have a conversation. But I think the one thing that is unique, as he mentioned, of us kind of all coming up small college, I think college coaching, I don't care what sport you actually coach, it is the loneliest job in the world. It is the loneliest job. You can have 100,000 people at a football game, 20,000 people in an arena, and you feel like you're the only person in there. The weight of the world of you performing as a leader is on display, and everybody knows if you're doing the job. And there's not many people in the country that have a job like that. And so even your assistants, you know, as much as Iz meets with his guys and I meet with mine, at the end of the day, they don't get it. They don't understand it. And so I think him and I have really built that relationship. I cut through his office every day. Well, that was pre-COVID. And we just sit, and probably the first half hour, 45 minutes of a day, him and I just talk it out. Like, I don't know, I listen to what he's got. He listens to me. And I don't know, at the end of the day, it's kind of a good therapy session. And we haven't had it in about 9 months, but he's there when we need, you know, I need to talk to him for sure. But he's awesome. He's an awesome guy. Whatever you think about him as a coach, he's 1,000 times the person.
That's a really unique situation and relationship, and it's really fun to see from the outside because we all know it based on, Suzy, how much you revere Coach and what you talk about every time we have a conversation with you. So having said that, I want to ask you about the college athletics has gotten so commercialized. There's so many different legislation. There's things in Congress right now. There's just things that are being discussed in court, and I don't want to go into all that, but what I want to go to is there still the pure joy for both of you in offering a young man or woman a scholarship to attend Michigan State, and they're excited to get it because they get their education paid for and they get a chance to play basketball, or has it become something else? Suzy?
Oh, yeah, put me on the spot first. I'd love to say there's value in that, and I believe there is. I think Iz and I are the old school people that should be the value, but I think the pendulum is switched and flipped, and it's gotten priorities have gotten completely out of whack. I mean, when we're talking about someone's personal brand versus our team, I just fundamentally, I didn't grow up that way. So it's really been hard and difficult for me to manage. I mean, Iz is on a whole nother level because he's got guys that go to the league and are drafted in the first round. And there is a lot to that. You know, I'm, you know, I say a prayer for them every night, because I think the men's side has it harder than the women's side when it comes to that. If I would just say, if I could share with you one thing that I think is a disconnect, I think the glory and the gratification of being recruited and being, you know, ranked and all the publicity and hype that goes with that versus the actual grind that has to take place when you get here. Those things are so far off center to me. And some kids it really shocks their system. So I don't know if they value the education, because I don't know if they've ever done the grind to match like what is required and what they get for that opportunity. So, you know, he can probably talk more about the name, image, likeness, and the branding. And I know that stuff isn't high on his list, but it's what he has to deal with now.
Well, I would agree with her. You know, I don't think nobody goes through the process anymore. You know, like she was a GA and I was a GA, and she was a Division II and I was a Division II. And in Division II, you get nothing. I mean, you do sleep in your car. I mean, those aren't stories, they're realities. And yet, you know, when you go through problems, and this is the problem I have with the people on the transfer rule, going through problems is what really built your character. It really, you know, if you never went through a problem, what would you be like? I mean, I wanted to quit here with Judd Heathcote. I mean, he fired me 57 times. I wanted to quit 130 times. But just think if I did, or just think if I left. You know, I mean, I've had the greatest life you could have. I've been in the same place. It doesn't happen very often. And it's because I learned how to deal through problems. And now we're going to have kids. I mean, you know, I always said I was a football guy too. And, you know, every football locker room, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, you know, all that rough stuff. And it's probably in everybody's locker room. And now it's going to be when the going gets tough, hit the road. You know, what is that? And I argue with a lot of my friends in the media that seem to think this gives kids freedom. And I just want to tell you, I think we're making the mistake of all mistakes, that we're going to teach kids how to never fight through adversity. And you've had it, Debbie. Suzy's had it. Tom Izzo's had it. And most people that have been successful, I mean, from back to the stories of Abraham Lincoln failing 100 times, you read that, to Mike Krzyzewski and Dean Smith in my program, or in my the men's program. You know, first 4 years, they were awful. You know, people were hanging them in effigy, you know. Hell, now you'd be fired. And people never get to work their way through the process. And it's okay in my 60s. I think I'm you know, good enough to understand that. Man, I feel sorry for kids in their 18s and 20s and how they're going to learn that and don't appreciate. I loved your question. Appreciate that basketball, if you're really, really great, is going to get you to 35. But Magic Johnson, for example, for us, has made way more money out of basketball and business because of what he learned than he did in basketball. And you get to live a lot longer than 35, hopefully. And I just wonder what we're creating. And we're creating it. It's our fault. We're the adults that are letting this happen. At 18, you just can't, your brain isn't ready to think like that. You know, there's a reason you can't even be president of the United States, although that's not as good a job maybe as it was, but you can't even be president of the United States till you're 36. Why is that? Because experience matters. And we're making it where experience doesn't matter, and I think that's a shame.
Coach, you're talking about fear of failing, and some people consider that a very strong motivating force, or it used to be, because based on what you're talking about, the process and not taking shortcuts, but actually going through steps that you have to learn how to handle adversity. So I want to ask you both this. Having said that, and knowing where the climate of our game is right now, based on the easy out is to just leave. When teams are described, like both of yours, as tough and gritty and hardworking, are those compliments now? Or are those things that you're going to look at as, those are non-negotiables if you come here. So if you're not willing to put in the grind, as Suzy says, then you're not coming to the right place to get started. How do you feel about that, Coach?
Well, I feel great about what you said. Even me at this point in my career, I got to admit, I'm getting better at saying, hey, this place isn't for everybody. John Calipari does a great job of that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what Gino does anymore there, but, he used to be the hard guy of all hard guys, or Pat Summitt, like she couldn't coach like she did, like if I put on football pads now, like I did back 20 years ago, in a practice, I'd have a lawyer suing me. So, there's things that have changed, but I really worry on what you said. Toughness doesn't mean physical toughness. It means mental toughness. It means the ability to work through problems. And I swear to you, I think our society is getting so soft. I think athletics is a good example. Look at the best coaches and men's and women's college ball, pro ball. They're not, this is a four-letter swear word phrase to me. He's a player's coach. What does that mean? The inmates are running the asylum, And I got to admit, I'm thankful. I'm older than Suzy. She might have to put up with it. I'm not putting up with it because I know it's not the right way to be successful. And that's been proven over hundreds of years. It's not about new generations, or it's about the right way to do something.
Suzy, you guys are both perimeter players, both shooters, both guards. What do you value most in point guards?
I have four things I meet with my point guards every week. Number one, energy. Their energy, the people's energy around them. Are you holding people accountable to giving that good energy? Number two, value the basketball. Number three, communication. And number four, one-on-one accountability. You got to be able to guard the ball. And we evaluate that every week. And I have three true point guards. I throw a fourth in there. So it's basically a third of my team. And we check it every week. We have meetings, we do film, and how is your energy? How is everybody else's energy? Because you're responsible for that. Did we take care of the basketball? You're responsible for that. Did you guard somebody? You're responsible for that. And everybody else around you. And then lastly, did you communicate? You should be the loudest person on the floor. So those are the four things, to me. Everything else, if those four things are in order, I really feel like your team has a really solid chance to go out there and win the game. And that's their responsibility. I've gone away from more captains and naming one or two people, and some of that was COVID related recently, but in the past, I don't think women tend to want to lead anymore because I think they'd rather fit in. And so I've kind of learned that if I can take this leadership piece and build it more from a standpoint of you lead by position or you lead by personality, right? So for us, some of them are personality and position, but point guards lead by position. You're the quarterback of the team.
Wow, that's a great answer. I just wrote down those four things. I really did, because so I'm not as big a Google person as you think, Debbie. I just learned something from the person down the row for me, but I really believe that I get a lot of, that's my personality.
Yeah.
I lead by example. You ready for this? It's a bad word. It's a four-letter word. I hate when a parent or a player says, well, I'm a good student, I work hard, I lead by example. If you were a tennis player or a golfer and the only person you had to worry about was yourself, great. But if you're in a team sport, leading by example just doesn't cut it. So I'm always looking for people. I guess I've been here through 2 national championships. One, I was a student at Northern Michigan, or actually I just graduated, and 2 was my own player, Mateen Cleaves, so Magic John. Those guys had the ability to make everybody around them better. They dragged people, hugged people, kissed people, yelled at people. They brought them all together, and that's what I look for in my point guard. I like what she said, because most of my guys, you know, that were really good had some of those, to try to find somebody that has all, like Cassius Winston, you know, he was so skilled and everything, but not as vocal, you know, and those that have all of them, that's how you win national championships. That's how you win consistently year in, year out. And they're getting harder to find. Would you agree, Suzy? Because nobody wants to lead. Everybody wants to be in their own silo, texting and not talking. And so if you get something from this, from me, I hate people that just lead by example. It just doesn't cut it with me.
So I'm interested in both of your takes on this, because I know in basketball the resources are just incredible at places like yours. You have staff, you have a lot of eyes on your team, you have a lot of people with basketball knowledge at the highest level. What is the difference, Suzy, for you between having your team be prepared and having your team be ready?
Oh, well, I always think confidence comes from preparation, right? So that's part of kind of the mentality, but to be ready, I think that's internal on the team. I mean, we can prepare them. One thing about he's monumentally in favor of technology as much as he's against social media, but he loves basketball technology. He loves the NBA stuff they do. He's a big technology guy. So for us here, the resources that we have to be ready, I think kids nowadays I think they want their results to be quantified. So for example, so many kids used to come in your office and say, what can I do to play more? I work hard. Or we would tell them, you got to work harder. You got to be tougher. Well, how do you quantify that? And so, you know, we have shot tracker now. We have chips that they put in their backs or in their jerseys or on their shoes. And so being able to quantify results and data wise look at that. So that I think kids need that next step. I think really to be ready for a game, you need great point guard leadership. You need a group of people, and that's, you know, Izzo always says player coach teams are better than coach teams. That's the difference between being prepared and being ready. When you're ready, you just step back and you know everyone in that locker room, and somebody's going to make sure it happens. And that sort of stems to me from the leadership piece of a point guard.
God, very well said. You know, how do you know when they're ready? You know, what I think is the hardest thing now, Debbie, that we're running into is people play the game for the wrong reason. Mm-hmm. I mean, we all three played the game. You at a higher level, us at a lower, me at the lowest level. But winning was by far the most important thing. And now, sometimes I'm not sure it's in the top three. You know, it's how I look, it's how many points I score. It's, as Suzy said, my brand. Oh, by the way, let's go win a game. And I think that is the hardest part of the culture. And what I've been lucky about here is by staying in the same place, I built a pretty good culture. Now, it's gotten rocked a few times. But when it gets rocked, it's, hey, Mateen, can you come up here? Hey, Magic, you know, even though he didn't play for me, I know he feels the same way. And he'll come into a practice, ask Suzy. He's come into her practices, you know. It's when you get people like that, when you've been in the same place, it just reminds you, yes, winning still is the most important thing of all. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think getting people ready, I just agree with her so much. I say games are won in the airplane, the bus, the hotels, and the locker room. They're not even won on the court, because if you're waiting until you get on the court, it's probably too late. So I always say games are won. And I remember this one little funny story. We're playing for the national championship. My team was tougher than nails, and Cleves was a tough point guard, and he practiced till he was dead. And on the, you know, you play on Saturday and the championship game's Monday. Well, I had a routine that on Sunday or the day before, we still practiced twice, you know, because once had to be at the site with media and people. So I'd always go to a gym, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and they got a knock on my door. And he says, Coach, just telling you, we can't go twice tomorrow. And I looked at him and I'm saying, that came from him? He says, guys are a little tired. He said, trust me, one good practice, I'll make sure they're ready. I saluted him, went to bed, slept like a baby, and we kicked butt. So that's what happens, as Suzy says, when you do have a player coach team, but when you got a guard, because that's the quarterback's job, and you look at whether it's Tom Brady, whether it's Magic Johnson, if you got a guard that can do that, and she's got one or I got one, we're going to be successful.
I have to admit, I get chills hearing that story, Coach. Winning is the most important thing. And when I get together with my teammates all these years later, it's about the shenanigans we thought we got away with. It's the fun things we did on the road. It's we won at a high level, and we talk about what it felt like, to be together winning. I got to experience the other night Tara VanDerveer becoming the all-time winningest coach in the history of women's basketball. She crossed Pat Summitt, the late, great Pat. And, anytime we get to talk about Pat, it is always an emotional time. We miss her greatly in our game, and we miss her in sport. But Tara won number 1099. When you sit back and think about over the course of her years, that's winning 27 games on the average and losing 6 on the average every year. It's phenomenal to consider what she has done. When you think about, when you watched it and you followed it, Suzy, what comes to your mind first about what Tara was able to accomplish at Stanford?
Simple greatness first. I mean, that's incredible, especially the way you put that. 27 wins on average. Anything under that is a bad year. I think most coaches in the country would take 26 anytime. But I think the thing that I thought of when I watched it, and I thought you and Beth did an amazing job, and kudos to you for celebrating her the way she should be celebrated. But she's a hard one, Deb, because she's so humble and introverted a little, to be honest. One of my longtime assistants that worked for me at Eastern Michigan and here at Michigan State was her assistant for a handful of years out there. And, she just talked about the integrity of the class, the humility that Tara, certainly exemplified. I've had a chance to coach a couple of her kids with the USA games and USA basketball. And they're just exactly the same way. I mean, just class people. So I don't know. I had tears in my eyes, to be honest. I think we need more women's sports in general, but certainly women celebrated in society. I think the media tries, but we need more women's games on TV. We need more moments like that. And it just can't be once in a while type conversations or options. And so I don't know. You and Beth just did it right and did it so classy in a COVID situation. And kudos to ESPN for putting that on.
Yeah, thank you. What do you think?
I too watched it, and you look at 1,098, and then hers goes to 1,099, and I'm thinking if I had 1,099 practices, much less winning games, it just blows you away, But you know what I like about it, and I said this. We won the national championship in my 5th year. We went to a Final Four in my 4th, which was kind of crazy because now the standards are such. But when they want to canonize you, at least for that moment, I always say come back in 5 or 10 years, because the key to greatness, or the key is, can you consistently do something? Because that means you've developed a culture. If you can consistently, you're not going to win. I'm not going to win 27 every year, but she's had a couple of years when she won 23 or 4, probably 2, and a couple 30. But consistency. I spoke at a clinic with her one time, and first time I met her, and it was awesome. And I think the first word you both said, there's humility, and I think that's what's wrong with our profession. You get somewhere, and Judd Heathcote pounded in me, you'll never be bigger than the program. You'll never be bigger than the sport. You'll never be bigger than the university. So don't even try. Well, you know what? I have no interest in being bigger than any of those. I just want to be the best I can be as consistent as I can be. There'll always be monkey wrenches thrown in there, but consistency means over a period of time. You know, she has proven, as Pat Summitt did, and you know what's cool? They're kind of completely different personalities. I mean, I spoke with Pat once too, and I thought, where's Newt Rockney? You know, are we running out of the football tunnel at Notre Dame? You know, she was, I mean, I loved her too. I went to one of her practices when I was really young because a friend of mine was the men's coach there. And I'm going to tell you now, you know, she got after it, as we all know. And, but look what she did. Look what she accomplished. Look, you know, there is no easy way. Suzy said it. We got to try to have fun, but it's work to do something consistently year in, year out and compete for championships. And that's what I always say here. We're not going to win every year. In the last 2 weeks of the season, we should have a mathematical chance to win the Big Ten championship if I'm doing my job right. We're going to have those good years and bad, but are we in the hunt all the time? If you're in the hunt, it means you have consistency. Tara, hats off to you. You've done it. You've done it the right way. You've done it at a school that is difficult to, you don't get to just get anybody in there.
Right.
I mean, I absolutely love, adore, and respect what she's done.
Well, you're right about Stanford, Coach. They don't have many exceptions there, and they don't have the athletic major that a lot of programs have. And so some of the stories that Tara tells about those that she recruited that weren't able to get in, and she'd walk into admissions, and before she even opened her mouth, they're like, nope, no, don't even try.
Debbie, you know what, Debbie? Suzy and I had that problem at Saginaw Valley in Northern Michigan. We had the exact same problem, or I would have won a national championship at Northern.
Okay, so here's what I want to do with you guys. I want to go a little lighter spin right here, okay? A lighter take. This right here. This is typically the Antonelli dinner wheel, okay? 3 boys, can't decide where we're going to eat, fight, they 2 gang up on one. No, when we spin the wheel and we pick a restaurant, everyone eats, everyone goes, nobody complains, and that's what we do, all right? So consider that being the ground rules for what we're going to do right now. So I'm going to spin this wheel, and because it's a podcast, people can't see what's on the wheel, but I have numbers on the wheel and I have questions related to the numbers. So just a couple more minutes, if you will, indulge me in this. So I'm going to spin. Suzy, you go first, all right?
All right.
Oh, landed on number 5, okay? Suzy. What's the best dish you've ever cooked with Coach Izzo? Or you've had at his house?
Well, listen, both of us do a lot of catering. Let's just keep it real.
Debbie, she's going to restaurants.
I don't know what I've cooked. I remember one time I gave a speech with Izzo and I said I cooked a bagel, and I never lived that one down. So evidently you toast a bagel, you don't cook it. So I should have never landed on anything that had to do with food. But you know what? I don't know. I'm trying to think at your house what I've had. We do a lot. It's all catered, man.
Burgers.
Yeah, we're flipping burgers. We're kind of like.
Same at your house, burgers, and then we get a little fancy.
Hot dog, maybe. A brat if we're lucky.
Ready? Here you go, Coach Izzo. You're up on the wheel. Oh, number 11. Let me see here. Number 11. Coach, you're the mayor of East Lansing. Are you going to pick Suzy as your vice mayor?
Oh, 100%. You know, we do work really well together. We kind of have similar philosophies. She says I'm from the UP, you know, which I am, it's really God's area code up there, but she's from Traverse City. I mean, you know, it's up there too. You know, she's not from Detroit or Grand Rapids, you know what I mean? But they like to joke, but I think we have a lot of things in common. And I do think this Division II mentality, as much as I joke about it, laugh about it, I think it's made both of us. She works. She was a tough player. You know, I wasn't. You said we were shooters. I couldn't shoot it in the ocean, but I worked my tail off and, you know, went from a walk-on to a player. And And there was a process. We both enjoy and believe in processes. And so, yeah, I'd take her. And you know what I'd do? I'd make her go to all the night meetings because I'm in the semi-retirement mode by then. And I'd take the day stuff.
That it's because I dropped the rose petals, man. That's what this is about. He likes me dropping rose petals at his feet.
Okay. You're up, Suzy.
All right.
Okay. Number 3.
Okay.
You and Coach Izzo are going to take your families on vacation. Where are you going to go that you both are going to enjoy?
Wow. Well, definitely, I would say definitely somewhere where no other human beings are, because, and somewhere warm, like a beach or of some kind. And I say that because I've been with my man many times in public, and I don't care if you're a man, a woman, a child, what gender, what race, what religion you are, people like crawl over to see this man. I mean, I've been at a Cubs game with him, and grown men are hanging over the edge just to get a picture of him in the stands. The man couldn't even watch a pitch. So if I'm going to have a nice vacation, we have to go somewhere very desolate and isolated where not another human being probably is, for him to enjoy and relax. But he can only go 3 days, just so you know. 3 days and out. I mean, that's, wouldn't it be, isn't it about 3 days?
You know where I'd like to go? I'd like to go to Traverse City. And you know why? Because her and I have been up there a few times at some functions, and she can joke about it, but those people gaga over her, and I just sit back. I'm where I'm a little different. I love being around people. I don't know why. Like some people say, well, go to your cottage and relax. What am I going to do? Read a book and sit there and look at the fish? You know, I can't do that. I got to smell somebody's barbecue. You know, I gotta hear a can popping or a burger flopping. You know, I'm just one of those guys that I need people around me, and I think she does too. So I think if we were in that thing, our wives and husbands, my wife and her husband would probably be sick of us. We'd probably be talking basketball or recruiting. But I think, you know, going to places, I say Traverse City because we had a couple things there and we really enjoyed it. It was fun.
It was fun.
And I got to see, you know, where she hung out. I had fun doing that.
I love it. Okay, we're going to go one more question each, all right?
Yep.
Okay. Coach, you're up on the wheel. Number 4. All right, Coach, number 4 is your son, Steven, is on your team. In his bio, he says the first trophy he ever won was writing a poem about you. What does that mean to you?
You know, my son's an interesting guy. You know, we adopted Steven. You know, Nick Saban, if you can believe this, kids were adopted and we used the same doctor. It was a private adoption, and Nick called me, and my wife and I, we had to make a decision in 2 days. We flew down, and here my wife's Hispanic and I'm Italian, and my son's hair was completely white. I mean, it was unbelievable. But 10 seconds into that, it was just, I told my wife, I said, this is no different except you're not heavier and feeling bad right now. I said, everything else is the same. I felt the same love for my kid as I did for my daughter. And, you know, Steven, it's been a little different because, you know, it's hard to be my kid or Suzy's kid when you're in a small town. Mm-hmm. He's handled it pretty well. But when he does stuff like that behind the scenes, when those, you know, he'll never say it to my face. And when he does it, you know, like he's proud of me or he's that means the world. Just like I'm sure it does with your kids or Suzy. That means the whole world to me. And so thank you for bringing that up, because that's true.
Suzy, is there anything you'd like to say about Gary and your boys before I spin the last?
Well, I'm going to say something about Steven, because my youngest son struggles a little bit in school just with organization and focus sometimes. And If you don't mind, I'll just share. Stevens had that problem.
ADD stuff, you know.
Yeah, just like kind of.
Well, Coach, you know my history, right? You know I have a son with Down syndrome. My son Frankie
yes, I do.
Senior at Clemson in the Clemson Life program. It's amazing.
Yes.
So we have kids that, you know, needed help, and I called Loopy, and she kind of gave me some tips and pointers, and Izzo's like, you should call Steven. And I did. And he was texting me, sending me flashcards of what he did to help Brady. He wants to meet with Brady. So him getting that trophy about his dad, it just, you know, I mean, he reaches out, and Steven Izzo is a big deal to my kids and my youngest. And the fact that he even remotely cares about how Brady's doing. They both went to the same elementary school with the same challenges. So he's just been an absolute blessing. And honestly, Steven's helped me understand Brady's mind more and how it works and how I can be a better helper, especially now in virtual COVID when he's struggling with math and some of the things that, you know, it's been tough. But, you know, just to kind of piggyback, I'd rather talk more about Steven than my crew right now, because he's a great young man. And it's awesome he's on Iz's team, because it's just great to have your kid around. You know, we miss a lot. I mean, Izzo's missed a lot of his stuff. And so to have that opportunity is a big deal.
And Debbie, if I could say this, since it's a podcast and we don't care, you know, at 5'7", 130 pounds, you know, he's probably not dunking on anybody, and he's probably not gonna, but she's right. You know, I took him as a walk-on because of what I missed out on the 18 years. And, you know, we go to an arena, we go to Duke, and we get a picture on the floor of every major place. And first year, it was me saying, come on, we're in Madison Square Garden, let's get a picture. This year, we go to Duke, he goes, Dad, we're going to get a picture, acting like he doesn't like it. But I know deep down it means something, and I know really it's going to mean something in years. And so she's right, you know, we miss out on a lot with our kids, as you did. And when you have special needs in any way, that's something special, man. And I commend all of us for, you know, not only dealing with it, but helping our kids advance. And, you know, Suzy, I just got the grades about 5 minutes ago. And that kid that struggled is carrying like a 3.75 or 3.8 this semester. And I'll tell him I'm proud of him. He'll say, yeah, you know, but that'll be a good thing for your son too, because mine struggled with the ADD and everything. And it's so cool when we can help each other. And that's why if you're a leader, you're helping other people. You're not just leading by example.
Well said.
I don't think there's any better way that we could sum up the time that we spent together than that final conversation. So, Suzy, I'm not even going to spin the last question, because I can't think of anything that would be more powerful to end it than the way you and Coach Izzo have ended the podcast for us. And I can't thank either one of you enough for your time, for your insight, for all the wonderful things that you've allowed us to share with so many people that hopefully will tune in and listen and learn. And I'm grateful for your time, and I'm grateful for everything that you do for all of us in the game. And I want to thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah, I do too. And thanks for what you're spreading out there when you're doing your job now. And it's going to be a lot of more good times. We just got to make sure we don't ruin the sport that has been so good to all of us. And we'll work on that. You keep spreading the good word. And let's do this again sometime. This is a good, relaxing thing on finals week. On my first Big Ten game. I enjoyed sharing it with you two.
Yeah.
Coach, you and Suzy have an open invitation whenever you want, and I am going to take you up on that.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks so much, Deb.
See you, Deb. See you, Suze.
See you guys.
Take care.
You guys, thank you.
Thank you.